I love these trees out here. Look at that. Whoa, cool, innit? It's really nice. Can you hear all them birdies? Isn't it? Aren't you lucky getting to look all the way up my nose? Right, anyway, not a good angle, is it? I've got a brand new pair of trainers on. In fact, I'll show you them, look. Pumas, mate, Pumas. Yeah, so I was just seeing a shit bag, one of those dog bags, those little black tiny bin liners, which has a dog shit in it, but like on the floor in the woods. Why the heck would you pick up a dog shit in a bag? There's another one. You see that? Why would you do that? Why would you go to the effort of putting a dog shit in a dog shit bag that you've paid for and then leave it on the floor? Just don't bag it up. I've also another thing I noticed actually before I go is that there were some Cheerios on the floor. And I was like, that's weird. Cheerios on the floor in the woods. And then I saw Shreddies and I figured out what was going on then. I knew what was up. It was people feeding the birds, which is really nice. Maybe I can see birds finding Shreddies delicious, but I'm not so sure about Cheerios. Anyway, right. Right, let's go. You're eight. How's it going? All right. Welcome to the Tars Henry Channel Show, episode 2. Motherfuckers. I'm really glad to see you here. Thanks for coming. I'm in this lovely little nature reserve. It's not even that little, but there's a nature reserve which I'm in near where I live, which I'm very lucky to have, because green spaces are good for your brain. They're good for your mind and good for your soul, good for your spirit. But yeah, I don't know if you can see there's a big open meadow behind me. It's all very nice. I like it. I like it a lot. I don't normally come out here because I'm kind of a homebody, so I kind of go to work, I go home, and all of the fun stuff I like to do is usually at home. So I do like going out though. I went outside yesterday. I went into town yesterday. It was my birthday. I'm actually 41 now. Those are the days back in being 40 land. That was great. Now I'm 41. I'm a lot older and wiser, a lot cleverer. Yeah, I've been around the world a few times now since then. No, I haven't. The world's spun around a few times, and I more or less stayed in the same spot on it as it went round. Been around the sun a few times though. I've had this weird thing like constant farts. I've had, for about 3 days I've had constant farts. Like my bum's been going basically. Yeah, it's weird that. Mind you, I've not been eating very well, so I kind of know what's up. So it's been a bit of an interesting couple of weeks. You might have seen on Instagram that I sort of lost my job, which wasn't ideal, but I've got a new job for next week, so it's cool. So I'm keeping the protein coming in. I'm bringing home the protein, and yeah. But what I've realised is all that big talk in the trailer about, oh yeah, I'm going to be doing a video every week. It's going to be hard. It's a lot harder than I thought it was. It's a lot of work. Yeah, I wanted to do 2, but 2 a week is going to be pretty impossible. Certainly at the beginning of this thing. Sometimes I might be a bit late, so please bear with me. I'm trying to bring the episodes out weekly and the highest quality I can do, and I want them to be great and fun, so I'll try not to be too much of a perfectionist. And that actually leads me on into the subject of this week, which is creativity. Creativity. Is it a blessing or is it a nightmarish curse? It's a tough one to answer. I remember having a conversation with my good friend Peter, who is a professional musician, and we had a talk a long time ago about, like, Imagine if we didn't have a creative impulse. Imagine if we didn't want to we didn't have like a drive to make something creative, to express ourselves and get it out there and show off, show off our creative work. Imagine how much easier life would be if we didn't have to do that. Creating things, it can be horrible, it can be expensive, time consuming, it can go wrong, no one gives a shit most of the time, and art shouldn't be this, it shouldn't be that, doesn't have to be a pleasurable, joyful experience to make it, and some of the best art can come from great suffering, and some of the best art can also come from people having a great time. So there's no specific rules, but generally speaking, humans, we're trying to have a good time, we're trying to live our best lives, live the dream. And is it good? Is it bad? Is it in between? What it's like and why it can be so troublesome. Because it can be very troublesome, mark my words. Well, anyway, I'll get into the details in the proper bit of the episode. Welcome to the Tars Henry Channel Show. Tars Henry Channel Show. Tars Henry Channel Show. Just start recording, eh? This is the ear of a cat, just so you know, if you're wondering what that is. So, being a creative, like Jez in Peep Show, I'm a creative. First of all, I think we should define creativity. I was at university for a while. I don't want to imply that I got a degree when I didn't, because I didn't. I was studying education studies and art and design, and I got to the third year, and then my mental health issues really kicked in, and it didn't work out and I didn't get a degree, but I got a diploma of higher education. So I do consider myself to be lucky. I feel like I've had a good education. Creativity, what is it? What is creativity? Well, my university tutor, she defined creativity as, I'm paraphrasing, but creativity is making connections between disparate, surprising things to get a solution. And usually people think about creativity as, the arts or the humanities, and it's like literature, art, music, literature, sorry, I can't think of any other ones right now, but there's loads of creative stuff. And like, for example, my stepdad, he's been known to say, oh, I haven't got a creative bone in my body, but he's an engineer by trade. He can come up with creative solutions for practical problems very, very well, perhaps better than anyone I know. So I would describe that as creative, and that's creativity. But you've also got, you've got comedians, you've got chefs. But basically, all of us, we're all presented with the results of creativity all the time, constantly. And it's great. It's the creativity of the human species, and we get to see it on our phones all the time. I mean, technology is totally creative. Like, look at your smartphone. Over the decades, humans have been working towards improving technology and creating machines which have more and more functionality and more power and more abilities, but in more and more like smaller and more useful packages and items. And now we've got the smartphone. It's ingenuity and it's creativity. So creativity, that's what it is. And my tutor at art college, she also said that the creative process of making something, creating something, it begins with divergent thinking and it ends with convergent thinking. So at the beginning, it's divergent thinking, and divergent thinking is when you're considering all options, you're thinking of crazy, like off-the-wall ideas, no idea is stupid, you're taking an input from any possible direction, and you're like, give me the input, give me the information, I want it, any ideas, come on, blah, 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 right? That's divergent thinking. You take, all of the possibilities you're open to, but then you start processing that, you start working through your ideas, and then eventually you do convergent thinking, which is when you converge on the solution. And that's when your brain really, that's like the fun bit in a way. That's like editing the film. So at the beginning, you're doing divergent thinking, you're filming all of the stuff that you want to be in your film possibly. And then convergent thinking is when you edit it and you snip it down to what really matters and you get down to the final product. Okay, so in this book, Why We Make Art and Why Is It Taught by Richard Hickman, he states that Peter Steinhardt, in his book, The Undressed Art, says that one draws chiefly, as in drawing and sketching for art, one draws chiefly to advance one's understanding, and that a drawing is a picture of that understanding. Drawing is a picture of your understanding. That Peter Steinhardt, according to Richard Hickman, is saying that actually drawing is a way of thinking about things. So he asserts that our ability to make mental images and to hold ideas in the form of symbols increases our ability to record and manipulate experience. The author also talks about June McPhee, and he states that June McPhee saw art and culture as being dependent upon each other in a kind of symbiotic relationship. So culture is being brought into this thing, and art and creativity is obviously very important to culture. And McPhee argued that for art to be appreciated, it's necessary to understand the cultural criteria that brought it into being. So culture obviously informs our creative processes. She stated, culture is maintained, transmitted and changed through art, and conversely that you can come to appreciate a culture by understanding its art. So art maintains, transmits and changes culture, and you can understand a culture through its art, which reminds me of Grand Admiral Thrawn from Star Wars. But that's a general look into creativity. But as I've talked about earlier, we have to bear in mind that it can ruin your normal life. It's expensive, it's time consuming, it can drive you insane, it is intimidating, it's mostly thankless. Oh yeah, making a thing almost never turns out how you hope it would. Okay, so Steven Van Zandt is an amazing rock and roll artist, and he's a producer and arranger, but also you might remember him from The Sopranos. He played Silvio. He is cool as, basically, and he's in Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. Now, I've heard him say on 2 occasions, actually, I've heard him outline his 5 aspects of the craft of rock and roll, which might be useful here. These 5 aspects are, first of all, you've got to learn your instrument, okay? Whatever that is. Second of all, you need to start analysing your favourite songs, and you come up with standards. You learn covers. He refers to them as standards, as in like you have a standard. This is the standard you're going for. So he talks about the arrangement process begins when you analyse your favourite songs. That's the beginning. What are the instruments doing? The chord changes. Who's doing what? What is the bass line? What is the top line, the melody doing on the top of the chord changes? And, oh, hello. Right, 3 is performing live. You've got to know how to, use a microphone without getting loads of feedback and stuff like that. You've got to learn how to interact with the audience, and you've got to learn how each song impacts the audience and how they react, how the way you talk to the audience impacts the way they react. 4 is writing, so then you start writing your own songs and your own music. And also, finally, the 5th stage is recording. You need to learn how to use microphones, like in terms of where you're going to put them to pick up a sound source. You need to learn about your DAW, your DAW, your digital audio workstation, whatever that is. So you might be recording at home, you might be recording live, you might have an engineer live, you might be recording in a studio, again with an engineer or with your friends if you're lucky. And so you've basically got these 5 aspects to the craft of rock and roll. So this, to me, is divergent. This is like the divergent part of the creative process of becoming a rock and roll musician. So you've got learn your instrument, learn your standards, learn your covers, learn about other artists, okay? Have a bit of perspective on what you're doing. Learn how to interact with an audience, interact with your own band, your fellow musicians, okay? So that's the performing live aspect. Learn about writing your own stuff, write your own things, make your own music. And then 5 is recording and, producing the final recorded output. So this divergent aspect is an important part, okay? If you're thinking about becoming a rock and roll musician, a rock and roll star, which is that's not my goal, but I'll get onto my goals in a bit. It's already quite intimidating. I mean, 5 things that each is a whole thing, is a whole project for you to do. You've got to have a natural drive. You've got to have your own motivation in that direction to be able to like do all of those things, not be learning them all separately. You might be learning some of them at the same time as you go. Also, when I was at university, there was this amazing glass artist, and she came in, and she was this amazing lady, and she came in, and she one of the things she said was it was really important to just focus your creativity and your craft on one thing and have it focused. And it's important because then you can truly master something if you just do one thing. So that complicates things, doesn't it? It simplifies things, but it also complicates things. It complicated things in my mind because I thought, yeah, I just want to do music. I mean, I was studying art and design as well as education studies, but I was studying art and design because I wanted to do music, and I had heard, to be honest, I'd heard that Thom Yorke studied art and design, and I've always been a drawer, a sketcher. I'd always done art from being a kid. I'd been playing the guitar and writing songs for a long time at that point, but I didn't have any musical education, so I didn't feel qualified to be able to study music. So studying art was something I was more comfortable with because I'd done art all the way through school. I'd always done it. I'd always painted and made collages, and I already had an idea what kind of art I was good at. So I needed to get focused. I needed to I knew that I needed to focus, but at the same time, I was beginning to realise there was a lot I didn't know. Another thing I learned was from Dave Grohl. He's a rock star who you may have heard of. I saw this amazing thing, an interview with Dave Grohl, where he was talking about it's important to know what you want to do with music. It's important to choose what you like to do and make your... I'm getting all blurred out. I'm getting blurred out because she's getting all the focus. She's getting in focus and I'm getting blurred. Look. Oh great, I'm just background. I'm just in the background, am I? Look, I got shit to do, girl. You don't care, you do not care. Look, I've got stuff to do. Right, I'm busy. Dave Grohl, in this amazing interview, said that it's important to know to choose what you want to do earlier on. So when you start playing the guitar, and if you want to be like a punk musician, a thrash punk musician, you might want to, you can do that with just 3 chords. Oh, for God's sake. If I find out that I've not been in focus this whole time, hang on. I apologise if I've been out of focus for half of this, because my cat's actually closer to the camera, so my cat has probably stolen all of the limelight, all of the focus, the literal focus, and I've been blurred out in the background. You need to make your choices earlier on, because when you start learning the guitar, you realise that there's an absolute mountain of knowledge that you can spend the rest of your life or longer learning. It's nuts. Music theory can help you. I'm not going to get into a debate about whether music theory is good or bad. I'm just going to talk about my personal experiences with the craft in a minute after I've finished outlining it. So you could spend, he says, you could spend years studying, learning all of your scales, learning all of the different modes. That's like the more complicated end as far as I can tell. I'm not there yet myself. I haven't got to the modes yet. You could spend all of your life and you could become this amazing jazz fusion player, but you might have never even started plugging into an amplifier and distorting your sound and learning to play with distortion, learning to play with the drummer, learning to play with the bassist. Oh God, I don't want this video to be long and boring. I want it to be fun, okay? But this is stuff that is important to me. So I know this might be a bit dry for some of you, but this is just a subject that I want to explore it, okay? I want to explore it because this has been a huge part of my struggles, which has affected my self-esteem, it's affected my life, it's affected my finances, it's affected my health, it's affected my relationships, it's affected my work. So it's pretty important. So it's kind of a dry subject exploring this, but maybe it's not, but maybe it's just the way I'm doing it. Make sure you know what you need to do before you start, as early on as you are able. Know what kind of music you want to do. Know what sort of instruments you need to know how to use. Know what kind of level of knowledge you want to get, or skill or expertise you want to get to in all whatever, and then then you won't be wasting time. And that was very helpful for me to know. So passing it on to you. Right. Okay, so how did this affect, how does this relate to me? I did 2.5 years of cognitive behavioural therapy starting in 2015, and I learned through that I had not just low self-esteem, but no self-esteem. And it took me, I'm still working on that, but I definitely have some self-esteem now. But anyway, it's something that I care about, something that I'm aware of, and all of those problems, the ways that creativity and my creative impulses affected me in my life. From the time that I first got introduced to music, it changed my life. It broadened my horizons. When I was about 8 or 9, maybe, my next door neighbour, Oliver, he was 5 years older than me, so he was like the coolest kid in the world. He introduced me to the Ninja Turtles. I mean, he didn't seem like a kid to me, he seemed like some sort of wizard, but he also he taught me to be a better footballer, and he made me a mixtape with loads of cool music on it, including Pop Will Eat Itself, which became my favourite band. And I remember listening to Get the Girl, Kill the Baddies, and it just like, I felt like it just, the way it made me feel like I'd always wanted to feel, and like powerful. It made me feel powerful. It made me feel strong. It made me feel energized and capable. Little tiny children can understand the music innately. We have an innate pattern recognition sense, and music fits into that. That's why it's good for, if you're learning a musical instrument, learn music theory. That's good for mathematical thinking. Songwriting, I think, is a form of maths. By the time I was 13, I'd got a guitar and I'd started learning it, and I was off, and I was just playing the guitar all the time, blah, 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 blah. Learned a few chords, learned a few Radiohead songs. Radiohead were my jam. I remember learning Blackbird by Paul McCartney, and I was like, that was the first really difficult thing I learned how to play. For years, I just played the acoustic guitar and sang, and I wrote songs, and I literally knew nothing about music theory, and I didn't need to. I was exploring, I was playing, I was having fun. And then I started making up my own stuff. Essentially, I was writing songs, and I knew them in my head, and I was writing the lyrics down. I didn't even write down the chords or anything like that. But then eventually I had a band, and at this point I didn't know, like, if you're a musician, you probably know about the 1-4-5 thing. That is the 1-4-5 is the first chord, the fourth chord, and the fifth chord. They're all major chords in any scale. Ain't it a shame to beat you up on a Sunday when you got on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Ain't it a shame? Okay, so that's 1-4-5. That was Nirvana, Ain't It a Shame. But anyway, I didn't know that, so that's how little I knew. And I was kind of a horrible singer. The way I sang was horrible, but I basically knew nothing. But I was young, and I had the balls to write these songs and sing these songs and form a band, and then go out there, and we had fun, and it was great until it broke down. And I didn't know about recording. I didn't know much. I didn't really know my instrument very well, and I didn't know my vocal instrument very well. I didn't know how to produce. I just didn't know anything, and my band fell apart. What happened was, eventually I got into guitar pedals, which is a whole other thing. That's what these are. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Eventually I realised I needed to knuckle down. I suddenly discovered guitar pedals at age 28, okay? So I was a late developer, okay? I was taking on board what Dave Grohl said. I thought, right, well, my favourite bands are like Radiohead. I loved Dan Deacon as well, and I looked at the gear that they had and the pedals that they used, and what, like, Johnny Greenwood is my favourite musician of all time, really. And I looked at the equipment he used and how he used it. I looked at Dan Deacon and how he used his things. I just wanted to make alternative pop music that was kind of like, well, listen to my music and you'll hear what it's like. One of my good mates, Andy, he's like an amazing genius producer, boss level producer. He really is. He's a general musical wizard. Okay, he showed me how to use SoundForge and Acid Pro, and he introduced me to Logic. He got me started with recording, and he helped me to learn about it, and he encouraged me. I remember him saying when I hadn't done a gig yet, and he said, "Oh, you're never going to do a gig." And then I thought, no, I am. And then I did do a gig, and he came and watched, and that was great. But I went out of my mind, basically. I went out of my mind because there were so many things to learn. I remember I got an Eventide pitch factor, which is a really complicated guitar pedal, and I just couldn't understand it. Like, my brain was not used to working in that kind of way. And I'll be honest with you guys, I bought this. This is a flipping super cool sampler and sequencer and music maker and effects machine. It's amazing and I love it, but I don't know how to use it yet. So I'm learning how to use that now. I'm a beginner and I'm totally intimidated by this. It's a new, like, I'm intimidated by it, and I shouldn't be, but I am, but I'm gonna, bit by bit, I'm gonna learn it. I'm gonna figure out how to use it, because I know that the way it works is ideal for me to be able to do gigs and stuff like that, and it will really help me with my production, okay, and making music the way I want it to be. Okay, but it's a new thing and I'm scared of it, but you know, that's what this is about. Creativity is intimidating. It can be intimidating. You have to learn new things, you have to branch out, you have to be divergent, and then once you know enough stuff, then you can be like the glass artist I was talking about and converge on your craft, and you converge on your craft, and then that's when it starts getting a bit less stressful. And I think I'm slowly starting to converge, but at the same time I'm learning new stuff. I'm learning about how to make and edit films, video, and talk to the camera. It's scary. There's so much things you can learn. So basically, I was going out of my mind with, just generally with life. Life was I was going crazy, and my anxiety and low self-esteem was just totally triggered by by other things, but as far as creativity was concerned, for about 10 years, my mates would be like, making music is meant to be fun, Henry. It's meant to be like fun, and it wasn't fun. I wasn't enjoying it. It was like I was just beating myself to death with my dreams. Like, I was procrastinating, I was terrified. I would just sit slumped on my guitar going dong, dong, dong. Fair enough. So I was going out of my mind. It was bonkers. There was too many different disparate things that I needed to learn. It was just like, all of these different parts of the craft. It's terrifying. I was rubbish with computers, but what I learned was just don't quit. Whenever you stop, if you get fed up and you stop and you can't be asked anymore because it's killing you and ruining your life, and I know I spent way too much money on pedals, and sometimes I didn't know how to use them, and it was just frightening and scary. But I didn't stop. I didn't quit because I couldn't really. I needed to get the music out, and my goals, my ambitions, which thanks Dave Grohl for helping me to focus with a lot of precision on what I want. What I want to do, I've got plans for 5 albums. I've done the first album, and what I want to do in my life is I want to make 5 albums that I'm proud of, that I can put on the shelf next to my favourite albums and feel like they're as good as that. They're as good as that, you know. That sounds very arrogant, but when you're making music, when I'm making music, I can't speak for everyone, I'm trying to make my favourite kind of music. So I listen to all my favourite bands, songs, and when I write a song, I'm trying to make it I'm just trying to make my favourite music. So So that's what I'm doing. But the anxiety slowly started to decrease once I picked one thing and just started working on it, and that was music theory for the guitar. So I want to do a shout out here to Michael Parmesano, who runs Guitar Gate. He did a course on Udemy. At the moment, and I started learning it, and I decided that what I wanted to do was have like a hardwired, built-in understanding of music, like chords and how they work with each other and the relationships between them. And I wanted to know at least the main scales that you need to know. And currently I'm technically, from a theory point of view, I would say that I'm an intermediate guitarist. And it wasn't until I started just making it into a habit that I would sit down. Once a week was okay, 5 times a week was ideal. You know, I'd be very happy with 3 times a week. I'd be like, yep, nice one, mate, you're doing good. And I started learning music theory for guitar. And it wasn't until I started sitting down and doing that and seeing results that I started to learn that I can achieve things, I can do things. If I say I want to do it, and I can do it. And that was huge for my self-esteem, for knowing that I can rely on myself to do the things that I want to do. And once I'd learned that I could do that, it made me feel much more confident. And I suddenly realised, well, actually, I've been putting things on SoundCloud for like 10 years. I've been making like little electronic little jams and loops and stuff, and like beats and synthesizer-y bits and bobs, and putting them on my SoundCloud. And I realised, actually, okay, so that's another string to the creativity bow, to the creativity harp. Another thing is that I've had a bit of a journey with my singing voice, and I got singing lessons. Shout out to Lynn Wayman, Nottingham-based, amazing singing teacher. I love her to bits, and she's changed my life. Her lessons have really, 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 really helped me. So Lynn Wayman, you're the best. Thank you. By this point, you know, my singing's got better. I realised that I can make music that I am proud of on my phone and then just tweak it a bit on my computer. So basically that's some sort of workflow that's good enough for me. It works for me. My singing was good enough. And what I did is I went back, all of the songs that my band had when we played together, but which we never recorded, I realised I could make that album. I'd forgotten how to play most of the songs that my first album is. I'd forgotten how to play them by the time I was like in my late 20s, early 30s. So I had to kind of relearn them, figure it all out. And that took a while. And but eventually in 2020, I realised I was good enough to start to make them how I wanted them to be in my mind. So I started producing, I started creating, and here we are. So I'm not there yet. I'm not an amazing producer, and I don't even know how to put songs on iTunes. There's lots of stuff I don't know how to do that I'm going to figure out as I go. But to me, doing YouTube and connecting with you guys online like this way, this is the way I want to do it. So basically, creativity it's a huge, it can be a huge commitment or a smaller commitment. You can go as big as you like, you can go as deep as you like. You can, like with any aspect of it, like music theory, you can just learn the 1-4-5 thing and you're off. You could learn, but you could spend years studying all of the modes and the history of music theory. So not just music theory, but where it's come from and how it's developed. You know, there's so many things that you could learn. But personally, I've got to a point where I think I'm over the hump. I'm over the hump of all of the divergent skills. Okay, I feel like I've got to a point where, like I said in my last video, I'm good enough at these different aspects of creativity, and now they're starting to converge, and I'm learning about how to do videos and stuff like that, and I've never had a record deal. I don't know what to say to a record company. I don't know if I want a record deal. It's complicated. There's a lot to learn. But what I've learned about creativity is that it can be a blessing and it can be a curse. But on the whole, it's a blessing. And life isn't easy. And when we look back, generally it's the stuff that was hard to do that we're most proud of that we did do. It's the things that we did learn, it's the things you do learn and you do try, the times when you do go out of your comfort zone and force yourself to do something that you knew you wanted to do it in your heart, but you were afraid. These are the things that we're proud of. These are the things that really shape us and make us into who we are. And, learning music theory for the guitar, which I didn't really start until I was 34, which is like 21 years after I started playing the guitar, that has changed my life. It's built up my self-esteem, and it gave me the confidence to know that I can achieve other things. It helped me I think, it's fundamental in giving me the confidence to know that I could sit down and make my album happen. So, creativity. What can we do about it? This impulse that pretty much all of us have, to a greater or a lesser extent. Well, make choices earlier on. Make choices. Choose what kind of craft or creativity or thing you want to make, or thing you want to do or be or achieve, right? Choose earlier on. Choose as soon as you can. Even if it's never too late to choose. You could be 70 years old. Choose now, when you can. Second, habits. Now, I've got a habit app, and I just check each day that I do something. So for me, my branches of my creativity tree, shall we say, is working out, actually, which is not part of it, but I try and work out 3 times a week. Once a week is okay. I do singing practice once a week is okay, but I try and do that 3 times or 4 or 5 times a week. Guitar practice is another one. All of my habits, if I do it once in the week, because I don't want to beat myself to death, and I know that I've got to bring home all of the macronutrients, and so I've got responsibilities. I've got to look after this thing here. I've got to keep this alive, this cat. So I've got responsibilities. Okay, not big responsibilities. I don't have kids or anything like that. That's another thing. It's kind of a choice that I've made. I didn't force the issue to have kids, and now I'm at a point where I'm sort of grateful that I haven't had kids, because it enables me to focus a lot more on my creativity and my craft. And I know that once I've really got to a proper convergent part of my process, where I'm just like doing music and making music and videos all the time, then I'll be in a better position. I'll be happier, and I'll be in a good place where I could have kids in the future, hopefully before I'm 50. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. What I'm saying is, make your choices earlier on. Start tracking habits. Choose what your habits are going to be. You never perfect it. You always keep going. The important thing is you get back on the horse and you keep doing it. Oh. Hello. She just had a little sleep. She's woken up, and now I immediately have to stroke her, otherwise she's going to be pissed off. Oh no. So you've got habits, and then being okay with being shit. You have to be okay with being shit. I'm okay with being shit at using the SP404 Mark II. I'm very shit. I'm super shit with this. But I know I will get there. I know I will get to a point where I'm like, and I'm good at it. But I'm okay with being shit. So be okay with being shit. And the other thing is, which relates to episode 1, is take your time. Okay? You might be somebody who's nailed your craft and you're perfect in your own way, and you're 18 years old. I remember Tim Wheeler from Ash wrote Girl from Mars when he was 14 years old, and Ash they were young when they started doing Ash. That's enviable. That is really enviable, and good for them. But humans, we're living longer and longer, we humans, and if you act like today's your last day, but but plan like you're going to live for 100 years. You've got make your choices earlier on, habits, be okay with being shit, and take your time, okay? And that will hopefully help you, like it helped me, to be a happier, creative human who is more comfortable in their own skin and more grateful for themselves and their life. Okay, so I hope that helps you. And I hope you enjoyed episode 2 of the Tars Henry Channel Show. I'll see you in episode 3. Cheers. Bye. Tars Henry Channel Show. 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 I'm just hiding out in the woods. I'm escaping from the police. No, I've got to stop talking about the police. I don't have a particular problem with the police, okay? I mean, I'm white. No. Okay. I'm not trying to. It's a sticky situation. I respect the law. I respect the rule of law. I respect the safe society we have as a result of having police folk and the police industry. So just shut up about the police, for God's sake. I'm going to get arrested. No. Oh man, this is not going very well. Dong. Fair enough. Boom. Okay.